And then you're going to say, this third question is, how much longer would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? Pause. You might be confused right now because in the last video we talked about just offering an 80% payment and then they can pay the other 20% later. But that's our in-house financing. That's something that you're going to try to push, but I got a little surprise for you. We actually offer options to where the customer doesn't have to pay for 90 days, 6 months, a year, 18 months. That means we can start and do the project and they don't have to pay a dime of the project until a year. That'll work for you, rolling it, right? So these are the options that we have, which makes us very competitive. 90% of home improvement companies don't have these options. So it makes it a grand slam. It really does. So I didn't put that in the last module. I didn't want to confuse you, but we're going to go over those options now. In fact, so actually, let's do this. Let's go over the options, and then I'll go over how exactly you're going to say this third question. So we'll write the third question first, which is, now that you've seen the price, how much longer would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? Now that you've seen the price, how much longer would it take you to come up with the rest of the money, right? And they could have a few responses to this. They could say, I couldn't come up with the rest of the money. They could say, I could come up, it would take me a month. It would take me a year. They could say a lot of different things. So the reason we're asking this is because if they say to you, it would take me 3 months to come up with the rest of the money, right? We're assuming they want to go with us. We're assuming that they want to go with us and it's going to take them time to, save up for this project, because that's what homeowners do. They save up. So if they say to you, it's going to take me 4 months, you know that you got to give them a 6-month same as cash option. So you'd say to them, Mr. Jones, remember I promised you I wouldn't let price get in the way of getting you the floors you deserve. Let me ask you something. And then this is where you react, right? You're responding to them by recommitting. You're saying, Mr. Jones, remember when I told you to do everything within my power not to let price get in the way? What if we did this? And then you explain, we had our guys come in and fix all these issues you're looking for. They sand or finish this floor. They look great. And then we put you on the Sell This House program, which allows us to set things up so that you wouldn't have to pay a dime of this project until 6 months from now. 2 extra months from what you said it would take you to come up with the rest of the money. That'll work for you, won't it? Yeah, sure, it'll work for me. Excellent. Congratulations, Mr. Jones. Welcome to the family, right? If they say it's going to take me 11 months, to hit them with a year, right? You ask this question because you're not going to give them a year if it's only going to take them 1 month, because then we have to pay more interest. We want to give them only the deal that they need, not the deal that they want. We'll give them the deal that they want, but, you don't have to give away the whole party in one shot, right? So that's why we ask this. If they come at you with something and say, I couldn't pay the rest of that amount, then you have an option. You can move on to your option 2, or you can do your best to save the sale at option 1. So if they say, I couldn't come up with that same amount, you could give them a non-pressuring question such as, oh, really? What makes you say that? At this point, when pressure's on the table, I always tell my reps, I say, ask questions, right? You don't want to always get in there and say, you need to buy from me, you need to do this. You sit back and you ask questions, right? And then they might say, it's just, too much, blah, 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 blah. Then maybe you try to respond and negotiate a cash deal, right? So let's say you've exhausted all your financing options. They don't want to do 0%. They don't want to do the monthly payment. They don't want to do any of the 90 days, same as cash. You've reacted and tried to do the put them on the Sell This House program, right? You've exhausted the Sell Your House financing program objection route, and they're saying it's too much. Then you can try to give them a cash discount, right? Remember I told you to do everything with the power not to let price get in the way? What if we did this? We had you end up paying for the project cash. Guys came in, did everything we needed to do. And because you're paying cash, I gave you a $400 discount, leaving you at just $34.62. That'll work for you, won't it? Right? Let's say they say to you something like, oh, and by the way, guys, you should be writing notes down as you do this. They say, oh, the other guys came in here $300 less, right? You say, well, Mr. Jones, I'm sure you can see after our presentation and what we do and how we do things, I'm sure you can understand why we're a little more. And you say, yeah. And then you can wheel and deal with them. You say, Mr. Jones, well, listen, I promised you to do everything within my power to help you. Mr. Jones, if I had you pay cash for the project and I gave you a discount and I matched their price, could we go ahead and get your job started? So notice how this is a little bit different than the React. In the React model, right, we're giving them a big offer and we're explaining everything and we're saying we'll put them on the Sell Your House program and we'll set things up so they don't have to pay. And we say that'll work for you, won't it? In this example, because we're not dealing with the financing, which is such a big offer, we're just matching the other company's price. These people are very price oriented. Maybe they weren't listening as much during the presentation, but we're just talking about a couple nickels and cents, and it's kind of like that on the freaking car lot, wheeling and dealing. Oh, if I could do this, do this. You're in a business standpoint, you're not going to automatically give the offer. You're going to say, if I could give you this offer, could we come to an agreement? Could we do this? So you say, Mr. Jones, if I could match that company's price and I just had you pay cash for the project and you gave us a good review, could we go ahead and get your job started? Yes, congratulations. Welcome to the family, right? So because if you just gave the deal, they might just say, I got to think about it, right? Because if you're matched at the company, even if you went 100 or 200 lower, the point is, if you're ever going to come down on something, the customer has to give something back. So always recommit. If you're giving financing options, sure, you can give a big deal, but always recommit. And if you're going to give something away, if you're just taking off cash, if you're not negotiating the terms, the monthly payment options, and you're negotiating the price, the customer's always got to do something for you, because this doesn't make you look like you're just willing to go down. And it builds trust for the customer, because if you really cared about them, you would have given your best price up front. So they've always got to do something for you, whether it's they pay cash, right? So they're changing up the payment option that's more favorable for the company, right? Cash is king. And you make that agreement with them there. They give a good review. They agree to post something on Facebook. They agree to put a sign outside. They have to do something. I mean, even if it's symbolic, they have to do something. Otherwise, they're not going to trust you, because if you just go down on the price, you just look like a used car salesman, and nobody trusts a used car salesman. So that's a lot of good stuff for price objection, right? We went through how much did you think it was going to cost. Now that you see what we do and how we do things, could you understand why it's more than you thought it would be? How much longer would it take you to come with the rest of the money? You've exhausted those options. Maybe they just want to come down physically on the price, right? They don't care about payment options. You can do, if we did this, could we go ahead and get your job started? So write that down. If we did this, could we go ahead and get your job started? That's another one for the price. And then in the next modules, I'm going to be revealing a whole bunch of other price objections, that you could use. We're going to be revealing 10 rebuttals that you guys got to drill and practice. And that's the most important part through all this, is you got to drill and practice all of them. But the ones you see back there, they are without a doubt going to be your go-to price objections. And I just looked at the board and this reminded me, if you have an interest objection, if they say, is there any interest on that? You respond, you say, standard 12%, standard 13.99, whatever the interest is, you just respond, standard whatever. Because interest rates are actually constantly fluctuating, so there's really no such thing as a good interest price. I mean, there is, but interest prices are not definite. They're indefinite. They're always fluctuating and changing. And that's something you can say to the customer if that's a good line for the situation. But you say standard 12%. And if they object to the interest, like, they say, that's a really high interest rate, blah, blah, blah. You have to read it for a second. You don't want to automatically, come on down on that. And you say, Mr. Jones, remember I told you to do everything through my power, not let price get in the way? Let me ask you something. If I could set things up so that was a 0% interest rate, cool, we go ahead and get your job started. And they say yes. You reach over, you say, congratulations, welcome to the family, Mr. Jones, because here's what I'm going to do for you. We're going to set things up so that it's a 0% interest rate. That deal is over the course of 16 months. Your total price divided by 16 months is, and you do the calculations. So for this example, $33.82 is about $210, right? So you take out your calculator and clipboard. Say, Mr. Jones, at this price rate, would finance things out over the course of 16 months. That would leave your price to just $210. And I'm going to do you a solid and set it up so that you're going to get a 0% interest rate. The way I'm able to actually do this is I'm putting you on the Sell This House program, and that's something special that, we don't always do for everybody. All I ask is that we give you a good review at the end. Sound fair enough? Sure? Great. Again, congrats. Let's move forward. Let's get the guys in on X date. And then, boom, you move the project forward. And we'll go into later how you present the actual paperwork. It's a very professional way to do it, and then there's a way not to. That's for interest. As far as we went over terms, we went over interest, we went over just coming down a little bit, right? A cash deal. We went over the same as cash, 90 days same as cash, 6 months same as cash, a year same as cash. That's when you defer the payments. We went over those options. And in the next modules, we'll start going over more the actual rebuttals for all different other types of objections.